Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Whoops. Sorry about my mic wasn't plugged in. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Oh my goodness, what a day it's been. My guest, Adam Gell, has not yet arrived, but I will read his introduction and hope he's here by the time I'm finished, so you don't have to wait too much for him. So today is episode 192, and as I mentioned, I'm very happy to bring back my returning guest, Adam Gell. Adam Gell is a shamanic mentor, a certified akashic record reader who specializes in helping his clients recognize traumas, setbacks, and obstacles. And through various healing modalities, he assists them to better understand a path to a more fulfilling and balanced life. Having overcome life-altering losses and physical traumas himself, he has traveled the path of learning to go inward and develop adaptability and resiliency so he could step up to serve others. Adam had the willingness to become a blended version of all his parts, including the masculine and the feminine, developing his intuition and his ability to heal and to become his gift to the world. Because all parts of a story are worthwhile and create the whole, Adam worked as a physical education teacher in Brooklyn, New York for over 30 years. He was also a Division I baseball player and an adjunct professor of health and nutrition. He also produced a film called Forgotten, which brought a deep level of ancestral healing and understanding of how Adam relates to his present, past, and future. Forgotten played throughout the film festival circuit in 2018, garnishing great reviews and professional accolades. You can watch it on YouTube, and the link is below in the description. Adam also hosts Conversations with Adam Gell and Inspiring Minds, where he interviews amazing healers and transformers throughout the world every week. He is a professional photographer, writer, and world traveler. Adam finds joy in his family, his work, and his mission to assist people on their own journeys towards self-discovery and fulfillment. All of the links are below in the description box. And today, in episode 192, we'll talk about the various healing modalities and spiritual paths that Adam draws on to assist others. Thank you for subscribing. Leave me a comment and please do smash that like button. Channel memberships are now available so you can receive my perks. There he is. And we'll welcome Adam. Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show. How you doing today?
Oh, hi, Karen, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Last time you were on, we talked quite a bit about the documentary that you made, which I thought was outstanding. I really enjoyed it. It really touched my heart. And again, the link is in the description below. But today I was hoping you could tell us about some of the healing modalities that you use and that you're able to facilitate with other people to help them on their learning journey. So maybe to get us started, talk a little bit about how you found these healing modalities and how you got started in this kind of alternative path to healing.
Yes. So for my life path, as you know, as people who are evolving and looking to expand our consciousness, I guess we come across that dark night of the soul, that point in our life where a crack in our soul or a crack in our physical body as a reminder of our soul's existence takes place. And I would say that uh, the more physical or the more emotional pain that I encountered, the deeper the break, but the greater the light that was able to be then shown upon my body or myself. So for me, for
Mhm.
example, I had always been working around my inner child, not knowing it really, but sticking up for my inner child, so to speak, against the people in my
Mhm.
life that created trauma and drama for me. Uh, and then when I look at it along the lines of it being painful, it was also when you're young, you become a victim of circumstances. You don't know how to get out of your way of being the victim in
Mhm.
terms of complaining, repeating the same pattern, the same story. Um, and that continued on for me until I was maybe in my mid 30s when I recognized my external world was communicating with me in a way of awakening me. And I worked as a phys ed teacher, as you mentioned before. And as a phys ed
Mhm.
teacher, I was presented with students. And students, for example, obviously have their own personal issues that resonate within their energy field. And as a person myself, working on my own inner work and seeing children mirroring parts of my life, it brought me to a deeper understanding of the need for me to mature and grow and to be an example to them, the example that I sought as a child but didn't really receive.
Mhm.
And in terms of not receiving, that doesn't mean I was a victim as I got older. It meant that it was something that sprung me towards being a teacher and being a mentor and being a person who could offer insight into a child's life to help them see the sun that's shining behind the clouds. Uh, so dealing with my own personal traumas of childhood and living as a teacher and then being triggered by children who are acting the way I acted and me trying to be an adult and separate myself from who they were wasn't the answer. What the answer was is me actually resonating with them on the same energetic level or that they were while remaining the adult, but understanding them at that level. And then through my adult self, they saw the child in me and were more willing to accept information that I passed on to them. So that was number
Mm,
one.
interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. And the
Mhm.
second, yeah. You want me to continue with that
Sure,
point?
sure, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the second point was is that as this was as this was gaining a stronghold over myself of learning to act differently than my father, for example, as a male who lost his
Mhm.
temperament very quickly, had no patience. He booed and sawed over every little disappointment, and it was just a lot of negativity. And while I probably had that in my unconscious mind, I tried on a conscious level not to act that way, which was difficult because the energy was competing with the two forces were competing with one another.
Mhm.
The child me and now the adult me trying again to find this equilibrium. But then as I was teaching, I have certain things that would take place and again in the physical environment, such as I would do event in my gym that triggered in me some type of breathing difficulty. And
Mhm.
as I had eventually, as I went on my path of going to different healers, I then had Lyme disease. And so Lyme disease was a very at a soul for me. It was a physical shakeup of my body, my neurological
Mhm.
system. It forced me to look at myself outside of my body. In other words, I said, all right, how do you find yourself when your physical body doesn't feel as it once did? And so you almost detach yourself from the physical and the physical experience to know you're a soul that is perfect. But it's those external, it's the clothing that's making the person, look a certain way. And so the physical body is making me look a certain way or feel a certain way. But my soul is what I need to be strong and fine in order for me to deal with these things. And so I learned that connection. I learned like how to not detach myself, but to separate myself and work on my soul by going internally and by seeing different healers who awoken in me the energy of my of my calling of what I do, the healing work that I do,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so I found myself in this place of recognizing that we attach ourselves on an ego sense to the physical and the materialism and the things that we think they occur more often than those dark nights of the soul. So we don't really want to resonate with the dark night of the soul. We resonate
Mhm.
with the material and external world. And so that was a balance of me trying to like with friends who were like complaining about something that to me was smaller than something that was larger in my life. And that taught me how to like better navigate things, better understand the human experience by saying everybody is understands their own perception at their own level of where they're at.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the dark night of the soul puts us in a place of solitude, of loneliness, of emptiness, no matter what it may be or however it may occur. So for me, I would say uh, some the physical condition that I felt pushed me forward to seek help, and that help is what enlightened me or brought me to people who again expanded my consciousness, who then allowed me to operate at a higher frequency and resonate and do the healing
Mhm.
work that eventually would do, as you mentioned.
Mhm. Wonderful. Interesting. Now, I just want to go back a little bit to what you said earlier about you were a teacher and you were working with children, and you we're taught that we have to act like mature kind of creatures when we're around children. We're supposed to set this adult example. And I wonder if that's true, because if I look at my cat, no matter how old she gets, she's still a kitten. You throw her a ball or shake a toy and she goes crazy, just like when she was a little kitten. She doesn't act differently. Animals don't act differently when they mature, but humans are expected to have a completely different role when we get older. And so, what I thought was really interesting, what you said, is you let the children see the child in you as you saw the child in them, and that opened them up to a greater learning experience, but also benefited you. And I think that is such pearls of wisdom, because I know for myself, I'm very close to my inner child. It pops out all the time and causes me sometimes kind of embarrassment, because it's not always socially, not that it's unacceptable, it's just not common, but I find to get along very, very well with children, and I can meet them at their level because of being in touch with my inner child. So I didn't mean to take away the conversation, Adam. I just wanted to know if you have a little bit more you want to say about our inner child. What is our inner child? Um, Staying connected with it, how does that benefit us? And are we as humans much like my cat, where we're not actually psychologically built to take on a completely different role as we mature? I know we have better manners, hopefully, and things like that. But besides that, yeah, what's your
Yeah.
take on that?
Well, that's an interesting point. I think that we, first of all, in a family structure, we're taught to grow up. Uh,
Mhm,
we do the things that the adults in our life weren't able to maybe do, and then they project it on us to be these perfect children or to grow up in front of them so that they have less problems, so they don't have to work on issues that
mhm,
parenting, and face their own inner child, so to speak.
mhm,
And so I think that it goes twofold. It becomes the the way we're raised in terms of who raises us, but it's also from that how we then want to grow up as children. We want to get older. We want to be fit in. Um,
mhm,
and we want to leave. The third thing is we want to leave our problems behind.
mhm,
We want to cut them off from ourselves so that we no longer resonate, we no longer relate or feel any of those types of issues that once existed, and so I want to move away from it. So we feel, I think, when we disconnect ourselves psychologically or physically from trauma or from our
mhm,
inner child, the wounded inner child, then we feel we don't have to face it again in our lives. And then we wind up, I feel, getting into positions, sometimes seeking power to then even use that power or something as a distraction, an addiction to compensate or to suppress the wounded inner child. And then we go through life not complete, and we're more fragmented on a soul level. And then when we get into situations, for example, like myself, as you mentioned, as a school teacher, there were teachers, I'm sure, who weren't able to be in touch or didn't face their inner child, and they became
mhm,
extra strict to suppress their own inner child. And they suppressed their
Mhm.
own inner child. It extraneously came to the students outside of themselves. So I knew the conflict was, how am I to be respected as a teacher when I first started out? I didn't know what it meant to be respected. Is it that the children fear you? Is it that the children like you? Is it that there's a mixture of both? Like, what are the dynamics for being a teacher, especially when you come out of college as a 25-year-old or as a 24-year-old, not really working on your own childhood issues, which are only like 12 years prior. So,
Mhm.
it all got real quick, it goes real fast. And so it was a lesson for me to then say, or as answering your question, is that I felt that I had to bring the inner child back into my life.
Mhm.
I had to look at the parts that were wounded, which was difficult, because people would say, or you would say to yourself, "Oh, I should be enjoying myself. These are the best years of my life. I'm young. I should be this and doing that." But it's the years that we need to go through naturally, but we also need to keep in mind that as a teacher or our own self, that we need to pay homage to the wounded aspects of ourselves, and
Mhm.
to bring them into alignment with who we are at each stage of our life. And there's times when you're 25 years old, where 12 years from that point look like yesterday. And then as the years go along and you go back, you're then able to assimilate the parts now that I see as a child. At that point, I didn't look
Mhm.
at it as a child, look at it as an annoying part of myself that I didn't really want to look at, like nobody did. Um, so I think it's important for us to to go back and to look at photos, pictures of ourselves. I think even if we're 25 years old, it doesn't matter how old we are. It's important for us at some point, the sooner the better, to
Mhm.
assimilate the wounded parts, even if we're numb to the parts that we can't resonate with. But we could look
Mhm.
at the picture of something and draw a conclusion or a feeling about it. And I think
Mhm.
what I did was, I didn't look at a photo, but what I did was I revisited. I was motivated to revisit my childhood because I was a school teacher being presented with children who represented me. And so I
Mhm.
then said, I will show this child, as you mentioned again, the inner child. And I think it's the only way that we can survive if we're living as a teacher or any profession in the job force outside of that. And as we get older, to keep the inner child alive, singing, dancing,
Mhm.
moving. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I think did I answer your question?
Yes, absolutely, you did. That's one thing I really like about being a grandma because I can get really childish with my grandchildren and silly and play with them on their level, and I just love it so much. But I, in my own journey with addictions and issues, did some inner child work. It really helped me a lot because it was bad enough that I had happened what happened to me. I'm not gonna talk about it, I'm just gonna tell you that much, and, but then I sort of abandoned myself as well, and when I reclaimed myself, it really, really, really helped a lot. But I know you do a lot more than even this, Adam. Do you wanna branch off and tell us about some of the other, healing modalities that you offer, your clients and things that you've, discovered along the way?
Yeah. Through well, having looked to detach myself from some aspects of conventional medicine and look to incorporate a balance of some form of holistic approach towards things along with conventional medicine, I'd say, um, in dealing with my own personal issues. And so, from going through the experiment of detaching myself and letting go of the handrail of what we're taught to rely upon, big pharmaceutical commercials that we see, pounding us with information and all this other stuff. But for myself, years ago, having visited a healer, an acupuncturist first, to have acupuncture work done, and
Mhm,
actually prior to that, doing acupressure work on myself, like as before I even got into this understanding of the energy work. Um, it stimulated in me, and understanding that you can touch a part of your body and stimulate energy. You can stimulate the flow of energy. It's as if a water is flowing in a stream and a rock gets caught in the way and stops the water flowing. You can remove the rock and the water will then flow. And although we can't, we can go internal in our minds and we can, transmute energy or shift energy. For me, it was a matter of learning how to eventually use my pain and turn it into self-love. And through that
Mhm.
self-love, I was able to then project energy from my heart to the people. First, I had work done to me by this healer who did distance Reiki in his office. And what it did for me was allowed me to raise my energetic vibration to the point where I was able to see auras around him and able to like be on a psychic level with photos he had of patients. And I would tell him, this person has that, this person has this, and he said, yes, this person has this person has that. And I was able to connect to the holographic world of information, so to speak. And from there, I wound up being interested in the Akashic Records. And for me, the Akashic Record was a healing tool because it contacted information on a soul level.
Mhm.
And for me, that was a healing tool because what it did was it brought me back to help others see parts of themselves that they discarded, where I could now gain information for them and confirm things they already knew, but as an outside source telling them, it helped them to say, oh, yeah, that did happen. That's true. Where they didn't tell me the information. So I was basically shaking the rug at their permission to let things come loose. So the first tool that I use is Akashic Records as a means of helping people understand themselves and to get confirmations of answers that they need. And sometimes not sometimes, the emotions affect the physical. And so when
Mhm.
people are then in touch with their emotions and better understanding of who they are and what they experience, then they can start to heal. The physical body can let go of energies that are stuck in different chakras, systems of the body. So the
Yeah.
Akashic Records was one aspect of what I did, and the other aspects was Reiki and shamanic work. And so the Reiki for me was connecting to different airs and sound vibrations and helping people and opening their chakra systems, clearing out the energy,
Mhm.
and rebalancing their chakra systems, which was very helpful because the sound and the intention helped others and help them heal and start the healing process. And then I got into shamanic work. The shamanic work was similar to the Akashic Records in some cases because you contact the fifth dimension. However, you can find that channel of opening it up. And for the Akashic Records, it's a prayer, and for the
Mhm.
shamanic work, it's the drum work or the rattle work, which stimulates the brain to get into a different wave pattern. And for
Mhm.
me, drumming, or mostly drumming, allowed me, when I started doing it, to see people's traumas, where their soul was fragmented or what took place to cause a trauma in their life. And
Mhm.
by pointing that out to them and bringing it in, the client had the opportunity to then repiece or bring that part into their consciousness, so that they're no
Mhm.
longer fragmented, but they're now more complete. Again,
Mhm.
it's bringing that inner child work into back in it's inner child work by allowing someone to connect to a person's energy field and see what's happened. And so for me, it's been a journey of the soul. The work I do is a journey of the soul, and it's different ceremonies used in order to uh, combine that connection to the fifth dimension, as well as
Mhm.
connect to the physical body through various techniques, such as Olympia, which is a technique I learned from a teacher, Itzhak Berry, who is a shaman in New York. Um, and he's written numerous books. And so what happened with him was I had a session with him. And from that, I then learned the techniques from the Ecuadorian mountain people. That technique
Mhm.
was very interesting because it required using an egg to clear off the energy field
Mhm.
around the body, um, and blowing rum around the energy field to clean off the energy field and to do a whole different type of routine, which was very helpful for people to have a sense of peace when they were finished. Most of the people said, "I feel like I'm new again." When you do
Mhm.
work, there's a cleansing that takes place. The surrendering is also a
Mhm.
cleansing process. A lot, the allowing others to to assist you, to surrender to their assistance, being vulnerable. All of these things are so important for the healing process to take place. We find our equilibrium again, the way we're supposed to, rotate or move. Um, as Elsa Dillon says, the spin, right? That
Mhm.
spin.
Yep.
And so, retracing or refining the spin is an important part of ourselves. And I'm able to now understand that in terms of that term, which is interesting for me
Mhm.
and helpful, and maybe helpful for others who are listening to this.
Mhm. Absolutely. Now, I wanted to, it's very interesting the different modalities you've been talking about. But one thing that sticks out for me is that we are multi-dimensional beings. And up until very recently, or unless you're in some, Aboriginal cultures, but in most of Western society, we've got a pain and we go see the doctor, and the doctor gives us a pill that helps remove the symptom but doesn't even address the cause of the pain. And then there is all what they call mental health, which, in my opinion, is the furthest thing from mental health I've ever seen. And they only address us as though we are just this flesh and blood um, being without anything else. And I have found that often, and in my own cases, when I've had trauma or I've had illness or disease, depending on how you want to look at it, it's on many different levels, and only by going to the spiritual realms and fixing things there that it then filters down and automatically also cures the physical body. And I'm wondering what your take is on that, Adam.
Well, I mean, we have different etheric bodies. We have the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, and
Mhm,
it is important. We're connected through the a cord to the heavens, to the akashic record area, to the fifth dimension. We're connected to that stream of energy, and we
mhm,
and in society, I mean, the pharmaceuticals serve a purpose for certain things, and they serve a purpose for other things. It all comes down to us detaching ourselves and allowing ourselves to build the confidence within ourselves to learn to be our own healers. We need to first trust the process of healing. We're
mhm,
taught that we need a remedy that's in a second's time, that things need to be done. Everything is faceted in that way, whether it be education, whether it be music, whether it be things that everything is going by so fast, and that we have no time to wait. And the process of healing requires us to wait, trust the process, to allow and to see the reason why we are sick, because illness is a means for us to get a better understanding of what's going on in our lives. It's
mhm,
a blueprint of our experiences. And so I know that we experience different ailments and symptoms in different aspects of our body and in different fields of our body that are seen, unseen, felt, not felt. And we know, for example, that people get sick. It could be seen outside the body before it actually enters the physical body. So it could
mhm,
be in one of the energetic fields. It could be seen in one of the energetic fields, in one of the auras, and it could be felt physically by using hands to when we gain a greater perspective on the energy field, we can feel where things are stuck. Just people use
Mhm.
tuning forks. They can get the tuning fork will resonate differently where it is in the field, about 12 inches away, each specific energetic field, and you can feel that. So
Mhm.
the big thing is that we need to trust. We need to trust the process of our own physical bodies. We need to understand that we store things in our body, and that when we are in touch and we sit with ourselves, we can then gain a greater understanding of what's going on in our life that's creating a certain um, physical issue or problem.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, I want to delve a little bit deeper into for those that are listening or viewing this video that aren't familiar with Reiki or the Akashic Records. But first, I'd like to take just a minute and a half to play a quick promotion, Adam, and then we'll be right back to take a look at things a little deeper. Hi, guys. Break time for a short message. Are you looking for the perfect, unique seasonal gift? Check out Zendome's Orgonite. They are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are affordable, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. They are only available through my website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. These beautiful devices are simple compounds which balance ambient energy by converting negative energy and EMF into positive healing energy with many easily confirmed health benefits. They help diminish the harmful effects of negative energies and EMF by attracting and converting them, retuning them into new and more healthful sound and light wave patterns. They also produce orgone energy, which is also known as chi, prana, zero point, and life force. And you can use these devices for focusing the mind, healing, meditation, and for spiritual growth. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are only available through my website. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out my website to see my latest selection at KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. That's KarenHolton HealthCoach.com. Check them out today. Now, let's get back to the show. And we're back. So, a lot of people are familiar with Reiki, but they're not necessarily familiar with how we can do this by distance. So, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, because I know that you can meet with somebody on Zoom or Skype, and or even an agreed upon time where they can sit quietly in one part of the world, and you could be in another part of the world performing the energy clearing and the healing. Do you want to explain to us a little bit about how Reiki works, Ada?
Yeah, well, we're what we're really doing is we're generating heart energy, and by generating that heart energy with the power and compassion of love in the mind, we're transmitting that energy to someone else. We're shifting their energy. We're able to shift the particles. For example, I'm not sure the exact year, but they did a study. I think it was actually in Maimonides in Brooklyn, New York, in one of the hospitals, where they showed that the person's energetic field and power of intention was able to manipulate the electrons in a room, and therefore alter the separated electron that was moved to California. So when one energy was moved, the other one responded, and in a frequency, an aligned frequency. And
Mhm.
what we're doing is I'm doing is I'm, through the power of intention and focusing, I'm able to shift my energy and bring my energy to the other person. And what it does, people feel the energy. They feel the energetic shifts in their bodies as exactly the movements that I'm making, or working with
Mhm.
either a pendulum or with my hand, and altering the blockages within themselves. Uh, And what's interesting is that there've been numerous studies on distance Reiki, and it shows they can't define how it specifically happens per se.
Mhm,
But from my perspective, the power of intention, the power of
mhm,
focusing, and the incorporation of the angelic realm assisting us by asking for assistance and helping someone else plays a powerful role in that. I mean, when I do the work, I feel like a light head, a touch on my forehead. Um,
mhm,
the people feel the exact movements that I'm making with my hands from a distance.
mhm,
So connected, there's a connection that exists in that holographic field and in that quantum field, that web of intention, that web of shifting energy. Again, not dealing with the Akashic records, but similarly, it's accessing an energy, an energetic body, and working on that energetic body. Like people use a doll, or they use an object, or you write a person's name on a piece of paper, and
mhm,
the different using a pendulum, for example, along as a reference to know what chakras are closed. I mean, it's connected the subconscious level to the other person's subconscious level, and bringing about a resonance that matches, and that match again is felt as a confirmation, and
mhm,
so that's my interpretation of how that's done.
mhm. So the way I understand it too is that there are cause and effect that operate outside of what we would consider time and space. And we're all connected. And because we're all connected, we can do things. And, some people think this is a little too woo woo, but, people pray for each other all the time and expect results and get results. It's not really so different from that, from the way I see it. And I was wondering if you could delve a little bit more into the Akashic records. So, what are the Akashic records? What kind of information is held there? Is it energetic information? Is it literal records? What is it? And how do you believe we access it? I know you mentioned prayer.
Well, I think there are different ways people can access it, but I was taught through a prayer. I think times we are in the Akashic records when we're in a daydream, when
Hmm.
we surrender ourselves, when our ego is pushed aside, and we're in a meditative state. I think shamanic journeys, people are in the fifth dimension in the Akashic records. But to make a real specific connection, the Akashic records is opened with a specific prayer. And that prayer
Hmm.
is a connection to our masters, teachers, ancestors, and loved ones who assist us in opening up an energetic flow to a holographic world, world where all of our actions, all of our speech, and all of the things we think are recorded in a specific vibrational pattern in the fifth dimension, in the astral
Hmm.
plane. And so that place that we dream, the place that we get these downloads of information, is us accessing this place where we can receive information about something. And depending upon a person's gift of receiving or opening up to the information, some people hear the information, some people see the information, some people feel the information, some people receive all of that in one. And
Hmm.
based upon questions that a client or a person has or an individual has for the Akashic records, when we're able to sit in a state of receptivity and wonder, and questioning any information that comes into our energetic field or into this place, we then receive information, and it's remarkable what takes place. So for myself, the again, the Akashic records is a reverberation of all our actions, thoughts, and things we've done. And when we think a thing or we do something, it's like throwing a rock into a lake. The
Hmm.
the re- the flow of the water will just keep going, 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 going unless something stops it.
Hmm.
And the Akashic records are endless. Nothing stopping. It's just a field of where the quantum web of information, the etheric not etheric, the ether, the space between space that
Mhm.
exists in our lives is where all this information is being stored and gone to. And so
Mhm.
it's a web of information that connects us to this. And so having the specific prayer, I know lowers my susceptibility towards my ego getting in the way.
Mhm.
And I feel almost like a very passive, very calming effect that comes over me once I read the prayer. And then I look up to the left, and some looking up to the left, shifting my consciousness to the left side, allows me to receive information. So when a client asks me has a question on a soul level, not on an ego level, not a yes or no question, will I get that job? Will I have that relationship? Yes or no? It's more, what do I need to do to get that job? What do I need to do to maintain that relationship? What do I need to do to maintain or become more creative? Or what happened in the past life that makes me behave the way I'm behaving now? And many times I see the a response to the question the client asks right away, like a flash of an image will come to me, and I'll
Mhm.
pass it on and I'll say, yes, that happened. Yes, that's okay. Yes. And so when I'm resonating with giving them information that's in their akashic records that they only know about themselves, and I'm confirming that with them, it's a very
Mhm.
profound feeling to access this energetic place and to pass the information on. So
Mhm.
this prayer originated by I think it was an Inca or Aztec prayer that was passed down to in the Spanish tradition. And somebody had a dream of meeting this person and met the person who passed the prayer from Spanish into English. And so the prayer itself is interesting because there's two different prayers. One is a prayer for a client, for yourself, and then there's a prayer
Mhm.
for a client working with someone else. And they do the same thing. For myself, just reading the prayer all of a sudden starts stimulating images. As soon as I start reading the prayer and I put their name in it with with permission, obviously. And
Mhm.
so the Akashic Records, I'm Irvin Laszlo, who was a runner-up for the Nobel Peace Prize winner. He wrote about
Mhm.
the Akashic Records, as well as Einstein called it the funny field. In other words, that was a web of information, as I mentioned before. So that's the Akashic Records in a nutshell.
Mhm. Very interesting. And I'm wondering, I know you do drumming and you do guided meditations, and I really recommend everybody to check out your Facebook postings and also your YouTube channel because the guided meditations are just lovely. What I like about them is they're perfect. They give me just enough description that I can go there in my imagination without being overwhelmed with things to find or see. So they're simple to follow, and they're and of course the drumming is very hypnotic. And I just find your meditations to be really, really lovely. And so I was wondering if you could talk a bit about how they work and how they fit in with the other healing modalities that you use.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for that, for your assessment of what I'm doing, and I do think it's a positive s- practice. And so the shamanic journey itself allows a person through the beating of a rhythmic drum or a rattle to allow the mind to go to a state of relaxation, to push the ego aside and allow the state of wonder to come through, the state of fantasy, the state of our inner child, the
Mhm.
subconscious mind. And that journey, what it does is we meet our spirit animals, and the spirit animal is a description or a energy that resonates with what's really going on in our energy in our lives.
Mhm.
And specific animals have a certain energy themselves or a certain archetype that lends itself to a person coming to an understanding of the message that is being transmitted through the form of the spirit animal itself. It's not just an object, it's not just an item, it's the animal that has energy. And in the
Mhm.
shamanic tradition, specific animals are associated with different directions and associated with different meaning, and also different things to come. For example, in line with what we're discussing of the spirit animal, I had a teacher who I attended one of his classes, and one of the clients, or one of the people on this meeting, had said that she couldn't get pregnant, and while he didn't have an answer for her direct, he told her, once they lived in Australia, so the person said, once the puma crosses the road, you'll know you're pregnant. And sure enough, person attended the meeting and said, you were not going to believe it. We were driving and this puma crossed the road. And he said, and what now? He said, I'm pregnant. And
Mhm.
so we don't we don't meet animals uh, by accident, just as we don't meet people by accident. There are no accidents in coincidences. Things are meant to happen. If we call upon a certain animal, it's a message that's being presented to us. And so
Mhm.
the shamanic journeys themselves are lending themselves the opportunity for us to receive information in the synchronicities of what the universe is sending us. And that's what my shamanic journeys are. I'll give you one interesting thing. Another one for myself was I was at one of these places in upstate New York, and I was at a lake house, and I had taken my drum out, and I sat underneath this large pine tree, and I started drumming. And it was about eagle medicine. It was the power of resonating at a higher level, of looking at life from a higher perspective, and going as high as possible to see things from that higher perspective. And within a half hour of finishing my drumming session, I sat in a chair and I looked back at that tree. And what landed in the tree was a golden eagle.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know, I was connected to something that I couldn't describe, but I knew what the message was, because we get fooled into thinking that there's feathers and it's the object of an animal, but it carries a certain energy, and it was passing on and confirming the message that I was presenting to myself and to others. And it was
Mhm.
extraordinary. It was such a powerful moment for me. And so, doing these shamanic journeys, as you mentioned, and you find enjoyable, you never know what information you're going to receive that could change your life. You never know
Mhm.
what you'll hear that you would normally not hear watching television, or watching something else, or being glued to the the matrix as we know it. So this gives
Mhm.
us an opportunity to take a section of our lives and devote it to ourselves, and to see what we can get out of something, and what we can learn from. And I just think it's a powerful tool. And yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I personally believe we live in a holographic reality. Um, I don't know how I know, but I just know that my essence, my higher self, is someplace else, safe all the time, and that a lot of what I experience here is an illusion. But when I see an animal dart out, when I'm out for a walk in the woods or something, and I see a deer or a rabbit or something, or even a skunk, maybe, dart out, and I always go home and look it up on Google it to see what it represents. And I'm always interested to see what it represents. So I think that there are different levels of reality. I mean, certainly there's the three-dimensional. If I stumble off a cliff, I'll probably fall on the rocks and die. It's not like it doesn't have its consequences. But at the
Right.
same time, I think interwoven into it all is this, it's almost like the universe has a sense of humor, and it's almost like a bit of a game where what we notice means something. The animals we notice mean something. If we go out, we notice a lot of things are the color red. It means something. And I think this is much the way the universe communicates back to us if we're just willing to take the time to watch and to be mindful and to listen. And then the world becomes quite magical. So I myself have a very a very what you might consider unexciting life. I spend a lot of time alone. I prefer it personally. I'm just not very good at going out and socializing. I find it exhausting. And I've got my pets and I've got my yard. And over time, I've got to know the birds that come around every year and their little social dynamics going on. And it's really, there's quite a lot to notice. So I hope I'm not putting people to sleep with my story about how peaceful and boring my life is. Um, but also within all of this, I have time to think and contemplate and feel my feelings and get in touch with myself. And I think that's what's missing in this world of distractions. Adam, I'm wondering if you have anything to say. Many of us deal with addictions, and there's no shame in it. You know, for me, it was alcohol. At one time, it was tobacco. At another time, it was cannabis. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with caffeine or cannabis. I'm just saying for me, it got out of hand. But I also was addicted to refined foods and sweeteners. Like just the layers of the onion just never seemed to stop coming off. But I'm wondering if you have a message to people out there who are struggling with their addictions or noticing that they'd be better off if they weren't eating certain things or doing certain behaviors. What's your advice to them? How should they start out without scaring themselves too much? Because it's easy to become really overwhelmed, and then it's harder to do, I find, to do the things that we need to do to improve life. So just wondering what advice you have to the listeners and the viewers.
Yeah, I think that we all experience. There's some type of void in our lives. There's a distance between who we are at the moment and the place where we want to connect back to, and somehow that bridge is some destroyed, or is we find it impassable. We can't get back to a place of what we once found joyful. I think we fill the void sometimes instead of doing the work of connecting ourselves back again. And me, it reverts back to a place of either an experience we had as a child where we felt empty and alone, and we feel that in certain times of our life we want to fill a void by not feeling that uncomfortableness or that discomfort, by filling it with something that can give us an instant satisfaction to make that pain go away. I think the first step is to look at the situation from an honest perspective and say what really took place that's causing a void in your life, whether it be a
Hmm.
childhood issue, whether it be something that took place, and what are we trying to run away from? What food are we trying to eat that will take away from the pain we feel by eating something sweet or
Hmm.
something, that resonates, that changes alcohol to numb us from our feelings. I know, for example, myself, when I got divorced 24 years ago, I think alcohol was a means of just numbing myself up from feeling. And
Hmm.
it didn't satisfy any void in my life whatsoever. It just compounded the issues and took away from my ability to resolve or to actually grow from that situation. So the first step, I think, is first of all recognizing what void are you trying to feel. Feel your feelings. Recognize what it is that's missing in your life, or
Hmm.
what you can. And the second step is to try to recognize the fact that you're using a substance, an action, or an activity to cover up the void,
Hmm.
to see the point, to see it as it is, not maybe shift it right away, but to first get in touch with it, visually, and to feel it viscerally. And from that point, then making the slow adjustment of feeding your addictions, weaning yourself off the addictions, whatever that may be, and
Mhm.
resonating with something else that will then bring us to a higher vibration or frequency that will naturally shift us that way. I think what addictions eventually do is they make us sick physically.
Mhm.
We get physically sick, we go to a doctor, or we learn through that pain and suffering to grow and change. And I think a lot of the voids we feel are from childhood voids, emptiness,
Mhm.
not knowing how to sit with ourselves, be alone with ourselves. So many people don't know how to sit with themselves. They don't like themselves. They don't like a part of themselves. They want to numb
Mhm.
themselves and occupy themselves with something else, running from one thing to the next. I know, for example, for myself, I know that um, I like the opportunity to not really be tied down to anything. I like to be able to
Mhm.
just get up and move or do, but really not doing something specific, but just the fact of like that becomes like almost addictive of like, okay, I'm not going to do anything at this moment. I'm just going to do this. And then I run to that and I do this, I run to that. And I'm going around in circles. And when I get back, I didn't finish any of the things that I started with.
Mhm.
And it's a means of me by preoccupying myself with saying, oh, I have so much to do.
Mhm.
And that's a form of addiction. It's a means of not knowing how to manage my time and fear of failure or fear of success. So if I
Mhm.
do and it doesn't work out, then I did it for nothing. If I, what do you call it? I try, but I fail, then I'm rejected. So it's a state of neutrality. People numb themselves from taking chances, for having the courage to move forward and find who they are and their life's purpose. And
Mhm.
I think when we find our life's purpose, I think the addictions fall off because we're so motivated to really fulfill what we came here to do. Uh, that that's when we're able to look in the mirror and look at things outside of ourselves and no longer own it, or we own it, but no longer live it.
Mhm.
And then there's exercise. I think exercise is a great way of showing yourself taking care of yourself
Mhm.
and eating right, and those tools that we use in our lives help us to help our physical body, help our emotional body, help raise our self-esteem, and then to say, I don't want to do those addictions anymore because they harm me. Here I am, I'm
Mhm.
growing, I'm getting stronger, I feel better, I look better. Why would I want to do that again?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we need to be the judge of our behavior. We need to look in the mirror and not look outside of ourselves for being confirmed by other people. We have to confirm
Mhm.
the self-love from ourselves. Once we can confirm, I think that's a journey. I think we grow up in dysfunctional homes so as to learn to love ourselves in a specific life. And that's why we have difficult people. Otherwise, we would be loved, but we wouldn't love ourselves per se. I think
Mhm.
once we master loving ourselves, then we've really mastered the journey in this life, and then we can love other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. So,
Thank you.
Adam, unfortunately, we're quickly running out of time. Time always goes by so fast when we're having these really interesting discussions. But I'm wondering if you could tell people where they can find you, even though the links will be in the description. Some people will be listening when they're driving in their car on an audio platform. Just tell people where they can find you. And then, do you have any sort of last words for people or anything that we didn't actually have a chance to cover so far?
Well, my website is adamgelluniversalhealing.com. I have my Facebook page, um, and my YouTube channel, which you've mentioned below, which I thank you. Every Tuesday night, I do shamanic drumming circle, as you mentioned, which I'll have tonight because yesterday were the elections, and so I didn't want to compete with
Yeah,
the big time,
yeah.
people. I guess my message would be is that there are many shades of things that exist in our lives. When we become polarized, thinking something is left or right, or light or dark, uh, I think that's when we lose track of things. Because we look to attach ourselves to hold on to something so that we feel secure. And when we do that, when we don't venture off into the shades of things, we lose a perspective. And when things get difficult, we don't know how to navigate ourselves. So I think
Mm.
understanding that life has many shades and many levels of growth and failure, and that we don't have to be completely on, like, in the circus when they swing across one side of the platform to the other side of the platform, that sometimes life will have us dangling back and forth, and sometimes we may fall on the mat, or we may land in a different way. And
Mhm.
I think we have to expect that, and we can't expect perfection, because there is none. There's shades
Mhm.
to life, and I think we'll experience that in year to come. That acknowledging that will help unite us and help people understand each other better.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's been a real pleasure, Adam, to have you on the show again. I hope to have you back again. I want to also thank the listeners and the viewers, whether you're watching this live or on the replay. I appreciate each and every one of you very much. And I hope everybody has a wonderful week. And we'll see you again next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye bye, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton, and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.